to start this, well, you need to log into command. So the website is agent.kw.command or .com/command. So if you save it in your favorites bar, you can just click on it. It'll ask for your, it'll ask for your credentials. Once you put them in, they should stay here. You just sign into command. Okay, we're at the command home screen. There's a whole lot of things on here that are useful. This goals versus actual is really good, and this is what we used to teach new agents to be able to set this up. So, take a look at some of this stuff and, just play around with it. Okay, down the left-hand side are all these icons, but instead of hovering over them and having the name pop up, if you click on the KW, it'll open up what the names of all of them are. So till you kind of get used to what's what. In order to start a transaction, and that's going to be a sale or a listing, this will also do rentals. You need to first have a contact in command. You won't be able to create the opportunity unless you have the contact in there. So all you do is click on contacts. The contact screen opens up. Up here in the right-hand corner is add a contact, and this screen comes up. So today we're going to be having Mickey Mouse as the buyer. And Nikki's email is going to be okay. That's all you need to have the contact information to do an opportunity. You can go down, fill in as much of this as you want. This add more information down here opens up some more contact information. Just click on it and you can scroll through it. You can see what's in here. Where this is all going to go is as they keep adding to command, all of this information is going to be, you're going to be able to use it to track people, to do all kinds of things with it. So if you got the time when you're starting to enter your contacts, just start filling in as much as you can. But if you're hard pressed to do a transaction like immediately, all you need to have is a name and an email address. So down at the bottom is a create. Okay. I also want to create another contact. Okay. So our other buyer is going to be Minnie Mouse, and Minnie's email is going to be okay. So that's all you need to create the contacts at this point. If you hit the recycle, and the contacts used to pop up as soon as you entered them, but for some reason I haven't seen that. So if you hit the reload or refresh button, it should show the contact. So both Mickey and Minnie are in here, and they both have an email address. So that's all the information that we need in contact. So we're now going to go to what's called an opportunity. So if you click on the KW, you're going to see down here the handshake is called an opportunity. So we are just going to click on it. Now, this is your command timeline page, and this is how you're going to move people across as you go through different transactions. So the top one is for listings. the bottom or the middle one is for buyers, and then this is for leases. What it's going to do as you do this is over on the right-hand side, it's going to calculate what your GCI is, or the potential GCI. So that's one of the things with Command and doing individual clients and putting them in, you know, as one transaction, because it's going to track the numbers for you. So all we do over here on the right-hand side is we click create an opportunity, and it's going to bring us up to some contact information. Now, anywhere where you see a red star, that's required information. So in a pull-down menu, if you were to belong to more than one market center, this is where you would have the different market centers. I'm only in Delaware Beaches, so that's all that I get. If you're on a team, you can have your team information in here. The listing, the opportunity type. We have a choice of listings. They call the sale buyer, and then landlord and tenant. So we're going to do a buyer opportunity. The owner is always you. If you are a rainmaker, this should always be you up here. So, and again, depending on how you've got your team set up, it's probably going to be you, but I guess it might not be. Now, where we had to create the contact names and emails and contacts, this is where it shows up. So if I were starting to type in here, let's say Donald Duck, it said loading and then no options. That's because Donald Duck is not a contact, and you can't create an opportunity without the contact information there. So we have Nikki, and as soon as I start typing, that should come up. Just click on it. Co-buyer is Minnie. She should come up. Now, what the opportunity name, this is automatically done by command, and it uses the first person's name hyphen whatever the type of transaction is. What we are trying to have you do is change that to the address of the property, just like we did in .loop, so that there'll be no confusion of, you know, what opportunity this pertains to. So as you start typing, I've got some already loaded in here, so I'm just going to use it. Custom tags, Sandy has been teaching this class. It's notes about, you know, how to tag these. Estimated closing date, we're going to pick May 14th. None of these have asterisks in it, so we don't have to do it. Commission rate only on this one side of the transaction, and it already has a opportunity phase and a opportunity stage. You can change this with the down menu to whatever you want at that point. I'm not going to change anything at this point because it'll automatically go in as cultivate. All right, so we save the information and we come up, we're still in command, but we're at the property information sheet. So we're adding more and more data into this. Now what's required on this form is this section right in the middle. And all these fields are blank. So in order to make them active, you click on the pencil in the right-hand corner, and it now gives you all the fields to fill. So it's asking for the country. It's asking for the address of the property. Okay, it pulled in Rehoboth, it pulled in Delaware, Sussex County, and it pulled in the zip code. So that's all that it's asking for. We hit save, it populates. Now, if there's anything on the right, the left-hand side, you can click the pencil up here in the corner, and it will make all of this information fillable. So we've got that in. Contract date we can put in as today. Close date, I mean, we've got the estimated close date. Commission came over, the type of financing you can put in, but that's pretty much all that it wants at that point. So all you do is hit save. It says the opportunity has been updated. Okay, so where we are at this point, we've entered the information about the property and the buyer. So now we want to go and start putting the documents together. So there's a couple of screens that we're going to move across the top. We're now going to go to the Documents tab. And we're going to come back to this screen because what this screen is this is your compliance screen. Compliance is done in Command. That will be one of the last things that we do in this transaction. So what we want to do is start a transaction on the right-hand side, and we want to do it in Docusign. Okay. Now, it's going to want your credentials that you signed up with Docusign. Okay. Now we switch now from Command, and we're now in Docusign. And where Docusign, what they call the rooms, is where we put together the document. So you'll see the tab across the top here. This is what we're going to work in. But if anybody has used .loop, you remember that underneath the address was a tab called the details. And when you clicked on that, that's where you added the people and all of the information to the transaction. Well, this is the same thing, only what we need to do is we need to go to the beginning of the tabs, click on details. What comes up is a lot of information. It looks like one big screen. I'm suggesting that you work down the right-hand side of the screen first because that's the people. So to make all these fields editable, we need to click the edit button and everything opens up. So if you start scrolling down and on the right-hand side, it's going to start with seller 1. You can put this information in if you want. Now remember, you're dealing with the buyer, so you absolutely know what the buyer information is. You might not know what the sellers, we've seen some come through that the names have been struck through and the address has been struck through because something's happened with that property and not been updated in public records. So up to you whether you want to add that information in. You might just want to let the listing agent fill that in when they get the documents. So seller 1's information, then it goes to seller 2. Then it comes to the listing agent 1, listing agent 2, if there happen to be any. Then we come down to buyer. So it brought Mickey Mouse over as buyer 1. Phone numbers. What I usually say is you can certainly fill that in here if you want. But remember, on all of our documents, do you see phone numbers on any of them? So, is it really required? It's not a required field because it doesn't have the star. So, you might not want to do it at this point. This is Mickey, and it brought over the right email address. I'm going to use the same address of where they live. Now, it asks for country. It's not starred. You don't have to do it. State, it's not asking you to do it. You've got to do country before you can do state. Wow. Okay. Okay, buyer 2 is Minnie. It brought over Minnie's email address. She's at the same address. Country, state, and zip. Okay, the buyer agent is me. I'm using 3 of my own emails, so my registered email with Docusign is a different one than I want to use here. So, okay, this was, if you remember right, on the one of the very first screens, it said that we were Delaware Beaches as the market center. We need to correct this with Docusign because this is not our company name. So you need to change Delaware Beaches to Keller Williams. And I would put in Realty. Okay, it gives us our address. We need to put in the city, country, state, and zip. Okay, if there was a buyer's agent too, you'd put that in. So we've now come to the bottom of the screen and we've lost all the center and to the left. So just make sure you pull the screen all the way up to the top and you'll be back to the room information. So it's got the name of the property here. You can fill in as much of this information as you want. Now, you're going to see something that you probably haven't seen before. It's asking for the local currency. You can see that this program and with Keller is being used in 3 different countries. So I don't know why they put that in there. Some of these fields are going to look familiar to you. Some of them aren't. Some of them, I have no clue what they mean or what they're there for. Just don't worry about it. Make sure you get in the ones that you know you need to get in there. So the second part of this, it's requiring the address again. It all auto-populates except for one thing, and I don't know if this is my laptop. I don't know whether you're going to have the same problem, but for some reason, mine populates as Delaware County. We know there's no Delaware County in Delaware, so we need to change it. Okay, you can put in the type of property if you want. It's got several choices. You can put the year built, pull down menu. Okay, now we get into some more specifics. We know that we've got an offer date, which is going to be today, we'll say. The contract amount. Now, this part of the screen does not take commas, so be careful when you're typing that you don't put in too many digits. It will take the 0.00, but it won't autofill them in the agreement of sale. Earnest money deposit, we're going to put that in. Now, here's the where you get a duplicate. This says local contract amount, which goes with contract amount. Local earnest money amount goes with earnest money. I guess it depends on what you're used to calling it. I just call it earnest money deposit. So, up to you which one you use. I can tell you that the 2 local do not autofill. So you might just want to be using the earnest money deposit. You can fill in as much information as you want. We don't know a lot of this data yet. High bid confirmation, if you're doing REO properties, this is where this information would go in. Closing details, we kind of haven't got there yet. Additional information, you can put all this in. If you like, the one thing you should be putting in is the buyer side commission. That didn't come over here. So, and if you had a referral, you might want to put it in here, and then any note. So we've actually, one more thing is property details. And again, where is this information going to appear on any of our forms? So, it's nice to have it all filled in, but, for what we're doing, you don't have to have that done. Okay, at the bottom is a blue save button. You just hit save. It says the room has been updated. Okay, pull the screen all the way up so you're at the top. And now we're ready to move across to several of these tabs. So the next one is the Documents tab, and this is where we're actually going to, just like in .loop, we're going to pick the documents that we want for the transaction. So there's nothing here right now. You go to the plus add button. And what we want to do is we want to add them from Docusign. So you click on Docusign. Now, this is where the libraries are. And when this was created by Docusign, they created the Docusign Forms library. This is where all of the DAR forms are. But what we did is we went in and we created the Docusign Forms group. And this is the same thing as your packets that you had in .loop. And then the bottom two are all listing forms and all sales forms. So all you do is from a packet, you pick which one you want. And we're going to do the residential sale. Now, what comes up here is only 7 forms. You're going to see that in the front of the title is DAR, and then you're going to see some others that say KW 785. And what the difference is the DAR forms are the ones that were licensed through the Delaware Association of Realtors. The KW 785 are what we considered our local, our KW forms that are not used sort of technically by anybody else. These were just being used in .loop by KW agents, our KW agents. So then what we did is we did not want to have this list because this screen's kind of small. We didn't want to have you scrolling through and trying to pick out all the forms that you need. So what you only have at this point is the documents to create the sale today. So it does not include any addendas for like the home inspection. It doesn't go, any blank addendums. It doesn't have requests for escrows because they all come later in the transaction. So we wanted you to just be able to have a shorter list of the forms to get this transaction started. So all you do is you click on whatever ones you want: agreement of sale, the buyer agency agreement, the CIS. Now, the radon rights, risk, and remedies, this is not the radon form or the addenda. This is the wording for describing what radon is. And we were asked to put it in because some agents get their buyers to sign this. So they just wanted the protection that they gave the form to the buyer and the buyer acknowledges the receipt of it. Same thing with the escalation clause, is you may not need it in all of your transactions, but you just might need it, and that might be something you need right up front. So we've got the ABA, and we've got the appraisal contingency addendum. And again, only in here for your convenience that you might be using it right up front. If not, then you just need to leave it there. There's nothing else in this packet at this point. So it tells you that you've got 4 forms. You just hit add. It says successfully added, and now they're popping up each one of the forms individually. So this is similar to .loop, but when we used to click on them in .loop, they'd be, what I call linear, be one form right after another. These are individual forms. So you have to click on each one of them and then save it, but I want to do something else. All right, you know that part of a sale is getting the documents that are in bright. So you've got the seller's disclosure, you've got the radon, you've got the lead-based paint. So the way that you go in to get those is you would go to Bright, you would open up those documents, and they have to be individual. So if some listing agent has loaded those documents in one PDF, you're going to have to copy them, you're going to have to print them, and then you're going to have to scan them to yourself, to your documents, so that they're individual. Docusign doesn't allow you to upload multiple forms like that and have them come out in any shape or form to be able to use. So they need to all be individual. So you go to Bright, open up the document, save each one, name it. It probably will go to your document. So what we want to do is we want to add those documents, but this time we want to do it from our computer. So when you click on that, mine open right up to my documents, and I've got something saved. This is a seller's disclosure. You would click on it, hit open, and it adds it to your room. So this is how you add documents that you've got that are not in Docusign. Okay, so not any different than in .loop. You just open each document, fill it out with all the information that's required. Some of this auto-filled, and the more, I didn't do a lot of the typing, so most everything is coming over that I put in. You just need to review it just like you would any other document. Now, this is where you can change the sales price. So if we want the comma in there, you can put it, and if you want the period and the extra zeros, that will go in. All right, now, the one thing that it did not bring over in the right place is here in the earnest money deposit. And we're gonna say that we're doing this transaction electronically, so we do not have that earnest money deposit check. They haven't sent it yet. But what it did is if you go all the way down to the bottom of the form, here's the 5,000, and they put it in as having the deposit in hand. So as you know, when you don't have the deposit, you can't put it in here. So we need to delete it. Okay, so now we go back up to the form. All of these boxes are all active. All of these radio buttons are all active. This radio where it says other looks like it's half covered over, but when you hover over it, it pops up on top. So, you just, can fill in with whatever you want to fill in. Okay. Again, down here on the seller's disclosure, the buttons are over top of each other. Now, we learned something the other day that if you make a mistake, like for instance, and we have to go with what's up here in the bold print, that if neither column is checked, the item is considered excluded. But if, for instance, we put in cooktop alone, and we checked yes for that, and we figured out that that's wrong, you can't delete this yes. So the only way you can do that is you have to click no in the cooktop stand alone. There's no way to delete this once this radio button has been selected. So, if you're an agent that only does the yeses and leaves the blanks no, you're going to end up with one no there. So up to you on how you do that. Okay, I'm not going to go through the form. We all know how to fill them out, I hope. The one thing at the end is in this information about us or the other broker. Some of the things like our license number, and it didn't bring over the address of Keller Williams. So some of those things need to be put in there, just like, you know, any other offer. So once we're done, we hit save and close. Okay, so you move down the line. I want to show you something on a couple of the forms. There are some programming errors that we think Docusign or whoever was working with Docusign did. We know about them. We've got them on a list. We're going to be working to get these corrected. But for instance, on the buyer agency agreement, it only brought over Mickey Mouse because this is one long line. There was no space in here to put in Minnie Mouse. What it should have looked like is what's down here with two separate boxes. So Minnie is going to end up signing this form, but somebody in one of the classes said that they were not comfortable that Minnie's name didn't appear up here. So I will show you where you can correct this. You could type it in and Minnie Mouse, but what's happening now is it's creating another another buyer's name, and it's going to want an email address, of which when we put in the details, we don't have another email address to use because we use the two that we had. So I'd leave it off on at this point. Don't worry about it, and I'll show you where you can fix it. Okay, so you know, you just have to go through the boxes, go through the lines, make sure everything is right. When you're done, just hit save and close. All right, now you'll notice on the front there's an icon that says form in blue, form, form, form. This one says PDF because that's the seller's disclosure that's already been done by the seller. So at this point, there is nothing that can be done in the documents section because it's technically a PDF. You can go through it, as you know, you can review it with the buyers in case you need to be asking for something or to reopen some issue, but you know, nothing can be done at that point. Okay, so we've got, let's say we've got the rate on the seller's disclosure, we've got the lead-based paint. So we've got all the forms in here that we want. So we're done now in the Documents tab. We can skip over People for now and go to the Envelopes tab. Now, if you think of Documents as where you, put the documents together and edit them, think of the envelope stage as putting together an envelope to mail or send to the people in the transaction. So that's what we're doing, is we're now going to prepare it to be electronically sent. So we want to add new on the right-hand side. And it's going to give us a screen with a number of things down the left-hand side. So it wants an envelope name, so you can just call it whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be detailed, the Mickey Minnie sale. Okay, now it's going to want the documents that we want to send. So it's asking for the documents, and where we get those is from the room document. So if you click on it, a screen will come up, and it should be the documents that are in your room in the Documents tab. So if you want to send all of these at this point, all you do is click on all of them. Okay. Now, if you had the opportunity to have worked with the buyers already, you may have a buyer agency agreement already done, already signed. You may not want that, you may not want to have that sent this time, so you would probably just unclick it. You kind of didn't maybe remember when you went to load the documents, but you know, you remembered that you have one. But let's say we don't. So all we do is hit add selected. It does the same thing that it did in the documents room. Okay. So we've added the documents. It now wants the recipients. So if we click on add recipients, the way we have this set up is when you go to, remember in .loop, we had to add signatures and initials and assign it and do all of that. Well, we've already done it for you if you use pre-tagged roles. So you would click on pre-tagged roles and it will now bring a list up of who should be involved in this transaction. We didn't do the sellers, so that's okay. We do know that we have buyer one, and what we have to do over here is in the select is we have to match up buyer one with the email address. So in the box, you're going to have, you know, several things up in the top part. Then you're going to have a lot of email addresses. These first two or three are basically for, and because I'm here and I'm an admin, it shows up here, but these are usually the admin buttons. Where you should be looking is from the bottom up, is where you get your emails to match up with your buyers. So Mickey was Mickey here, so you just click on it, it puts Mickey's name in here. Buyer two was Minnie. We go down to Minnie, click on her. Now, it's got buyer's agent, which that's probably what we're used to, but because of several different forms and the choices that buyers had, what we have put in as you, as the agent, are called the licensee. So we would go over here and select me as the licensee. All right, so those are the only people that we need to put in the transaction to send for signatures. So we hit add selected. And the three buyers are going to show up here. Well, this is new. Okay, normally the way this will open up, okay, they must be making, KW must be making some changes. Normally, this is always shown ones in it. And what this represents is the signing order. And what you can do in Docusign is you can actually assign, okay, hold on a second, because, okay, I don't know what this did, but it flipped around buyers one and buyers two. These 8 buttons over here, if you hover over it and left click, you can drag and drop it and you can change the order. Okay, this is now coming up in the correct order that I would want this signed. And the reason is maybe not so much in a list, in a sale, but in a listing. If you did not have the seller's disclosure filled out in advance of putting it into Docusign and sending it for signatures, you're going to have a recipient that can handle filling out that form in its entirety. So if you figure that Mickey's that person, then you'll want him as recipient number 1. If you don't, you just change the order. And these are probably going to pop around. How come we have 2 Mickey Mouses here? Did I do that wrong on the? Okay. Um, so what I determined is, and for some reason it's, okay. So what I determined at that point is Minnie should be buyer number or signer number one, because she's going to have to do all the forms. Now, what it does when you put the signing order is it will go to buyer number one. Buyer number one will sign it and send it back before it goes to buyer number two. So when it goes to buyer number two, they only see what they need to sign. So that's a reason why you probably should put a signing order down the left-hand column. Under needs to sign, these are the permissions. But what you're doing is you want them to sign it, so that's why it defaults to needs to sign. Okay, just like in .loop, it's the email subject is, sales docs, and enter a message that they're going to see is, do not sign until we talk, or whatever you want to send them a message. Okay, so we now have this set up. I'm going to change this back. Okay, we now have everything done in the envelope. We now have it ready. We don't want to save and close, and this is probably the only time in the program that you don't save and close. You just go to the next step. So you click the next button. And what this screen is this is where we've already pre-populated signatures and initials. You can't make any changes in the documents. That should have been done in the step before. But what you are looking at, and in case you need to add anything, is up here in the left-hand corner where you see Mickey Mouse. If you pull the drop-down menu, each member or each recipient has a different color. So Mickey is going to be yellow all the way through, Minnie is going to be blue all the way through, and I'm going to be purple wherever I come up. So you've got a yellow and you've got a blue here. So we know that that's right. And these have already been done on all of the forms that you've just used for these recipients. And when you get to signatures, the same thing has been done. It's all color coded. Now, leadership decided that they wanted the date sign to be put on all of the forms. We don't have that nice green box that we had in .loop that gives us the timestamp. What Docusign does is they have a separate page that comes at the end. So we needed to have all of our signatures dated and signed, or our documents. Now, Docusign signatures and date stamps are a little long. This is the end of the paper. This date stamp may go off the paper. I can't remember on this form. I'll show you on a couple of other ones where you're really going to have an issue. But if you wanted to move this, you just left click and then drag it. And you can put it wherever you want to put it. And you'll get used to seeing where these are. Now, the form that I wanted to show you, All right, this is the CIS. This is one of the reasons why the licensee had to stay in part of that, because the buyers do have an opportunity to initial here. You don't want them to. You can, if you want, delete these boxes. All you do is you right click and you'll see cut come up. You would just click on the cut and that would take away the boxes. So you might need to leave them there depending on who your client is. All right, signatures and the dates. So right here is an example of the date here and the next buyer or seller here. This date stamp is going to come to about here. So it's going to be over top of the signature. You're going to be able to read it, but it's not going to look the best. So something you can do is take the date signed and move it over here, move this over here, and then you won't have any issue with either going off the page or overwriting on top of each other. All right. ABA. What happened to the buyer agency agreement? Okay, I don't know what happened to the buyer agency agreement. That was the one where I wanted to show you that the name didn't autofill. So let's say that was, and that's in the top line of the buyer agency agreement where it said the buyer and it said Mickey Mouse and then the blank line. Let's assume that this had Mickey's name here. What you would want to add to put Minnie in is a text box, and over here on the left are standard fields. Here's signature, initial, date signed. Then you get into all these other different things. So if we take a text box and we were to drag it over onto that buyer agency agreement, you can elongate this, you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, whatever you want. You can either type in this box or you can go over here on the right hand side. There's a box that came up that says add text, and you just type in what you want to type in and it puts Minnie Mouse's name in there. You can shorten that up if you want. You can make it smaller. You can do whatever you want with it. So that's where you would add that on the buyer agency agreement. So I'm just going to take that out for now. There's the buyer agency agreement. Okay, it switched order here. All right, remember we went to Bright and we got the seller's disclosure and it was a PDF. So what's happened here is we don't have any initials or signatures for the buyer because the seller did this previously. So this is where we have to do the same thing that we did in dot loop. We have to add the buyer's initials. So we just go over here to initial, drag it over, line it up, go over here, drag it over, line it up. Okay. Now, the first thing is this is kind of big for an initial. So if you just click on it, you can resize it. You can move it. Okay. You would do the same thing here, but I'm going to say that we didn't do that. So I just, made this a different size. When I go to the next one, it remembers the last one that I did. So I don't have to keep shrinking it and changing size and doing all that. But what it didn't do is because up here on the left, I was in Mickey Mouse in yellow. We need to change the color for the second buyer. So over here where it says recipient, you have a pull down menu with the colors again. Make sure you click on the one you want. Go over here and click mini and it changes the color. Okay, so you would just do that through the entire form. Okay, with signatures, you just hit the signature button, drag it over. I wouldn't worry about the size, the date signed. You know, you can play around with that. Signature again, and I'm used to just adding them all and then changing the colors. So over here, this is going to be mini, and this is going to be mini. So that's kind of not much different than dot loop. So, okay, so, well, here's the buyer agency agreement. So what we would have done is a text box here and typed in mini, okay? Okay, so we now know we've got everything done. We've moved the fields if we wanted to move them. We've got the buyer sitting on the phone. They're anxiously waiting to sign this. So we know we don't need to do anything else. Either at the top or at the bottom, there's a yellow send button. You hit send, it's saying sending. If you did something wrong, it's going to come up with an error message. Or it's going to come up with successfully sent. Your envelope was successfully sent. So where we are at this point is this is a draft of what we have done with this envelope. If you click on it, you'll see that what's going on, who needs to do what. As they do it, this is going to come in and it's going to change. So you'll know, who you might be waiting on for documents, or, if there's a problem that they didn't get them or they can't open them, you're going to be able to think, well, maybe I need to find out what's going on. So, okay, what I want to show you, that's basically how you put together an offer and send it. Anybody totally lost at this point? Good. All right, what we're going to do at this point is I want to show you what the buyer is going to look at. So I'm going to go into my emails where I sent these things, if I can find them. Okay. So what they're going to do is they're going to get an email that looks like this, that I have sent them a Docusign. So they're going to click on it. They're going to say that, I sent them the documents to review and sign, review the documents, and it's going to take them right into Docusign. So up here, and it changes spots depending on where, or I guess what device they have, is about the cookies. You've got to say okay to the cookies. Okay, so here was the message: do not sign until we talk. Please review the document. So if you hit continue, these will all be in linear fashion, one right after another. So the buyer can scroll through this, they can read it, they can see it before they do anything with it. So if they've got any questions, they can go up here, they can print it. If they want to, actually go over it, but not do it on a computer. So they're all satisfied with it. So what they want to do is they want to start signing. They would hit the start button. It will take them to the first field that they need to go to. When they click on it, I've got saved. I wonder if okay, I've already got saved initials in here, so I'm just going to go through this. all this is doing is, just like in Doc Loop, is it asks you to adopt a signature and an initial. So that's what I'm doing. Signature, 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 a couple of initials. Okay. Signature, and I'm done. So you would hit finish. It would tell you, and it would take you back to the place that you missed if you missed something. Now, here's an example of where that date stamp is, and you see how long it is. This one probably would have fit here, but on a couple of those other forms, it does not. It actually goes off the page. So some of them are okay and some of them aren't. And, you know, hopefully we'll eventually get that fixed. So once they're done, they just click finish. You're done signing. Okay. All right, so if we went back to, and then you're going to get a message from them saying that they've signed it. So that'll be in your email. On this screen, if you hit the reload after you know you've gotten that back, or at any point, it'll refresh it and it'll come back and saying that Mickey signed this on today's date and the time that he did it. And that's not the real time. This changes somewhere, but it shows up here as 6 o'clock tonight and it's actually 2 o'clock. So that fixes itself somewhere. Okay, so if we want to go to now Mini. Okay, now you heard that just click through. That's because I just got a message from Mickey saying that they were signed. So this got sent to Minnie after that notification came in. So same kind of thing as Minnie opens it, says they agree to electronic signatures, continue. They go to start. Okay, now here's where it should have asked Mickey in the beginning. This is where it creates a signature and an initial. Sometimes you may get it where, or they may get it where it'll open up to draw and it'll be a blank screen. This allows them to draw their own signature. And just for an admin and for compliance kind of FYI, I would rather have them pick something that's readable other than just curly Q's and dashes and all kinds of things. I know their signature is a legal signature, but I'd rather be able to read the name that's there instead of something else. So if you can dissuade them, if it comes up to the draw or they ask you about it, you know, I'd rather see what's here. So all they do is hit adopt an initial and then just go through all the forms. Okay. Hit the finish. They're going to get the same screens that Mickey would have gotten. What this is saying is you want to save a copy of your document, but it's actually asking you if you want to sign up for a free Docusign account. I don't know whether that's necessary because you're going to have control of all the papers. So you might just tell them, say no thanks. Okay, tells you you're done. Then if I go to the last email, which is mine, Okay, and I think I only have one signature on one document. So I agree, continue, start, sign. Okay, and I'm done. Okay. So where we are is if we reload this page, it should now say that everybody has signed it and it tells you when. So, this is just, it's just a helpful screen. It tells you that this transaction is now completed. So if we were to go to our envelopes tab, we now have completed. If we open this up, nope, nope, wrong one, sorry. Okay, why isn't this opening? Oh, okay, good. You have to go back to the Documents tab. So remember we originally started with the form in blue on it. We now have a duplicate, but it has a green checkbox which says signed underneath. So you're going to have a duplicate of every one of these forms. Okay. In compliance, what we're looking for is we're going to be looking for the signed form and not the regular form. Now, when I had said that leadership had decided to put the date signed on all of the forms, this is where you will get the Docusign certification. So if anybody worked with Docusign years ago in real estate, we had to attach this to every contract for proof and certification. So when you click on it and it opens up, that should be white. Okay, what it does here is it just gives you, the information that you need. It shows you the signatures. It tells you when it was sent, when it was viewed, when it was signed by all the parties, and then it gives you other information. It's 5 pages altogether. You actually probably don't need this for anything unless somebody, is questioning or wants to see the certification. So when you open Documents and you've got this big tab up top, there's an X on the right-hand side. If you just click the X, it'll close out the document. Okay, so we basically know that all our documents are here, that we got them back. We are done in Docusign. And the next phase that you would go to is you want to go to the compliance section. So if you had, let's say, we're assuming that this has gone to the seller also and come back. Let's say the buyers were waiting, they signed it, the seller was waiting, they signed it. You now have an agreement of sale. You're under contract and you're ready to submit this for compliance. So you're still at your laptop or your computer. This was the very first tab that we started with. Most of the time it'll be, let me just get rid of it. It's going to be over here because these are the only 2 tabs that we've been dealing with. If you were to go and click on that tab, remember I said when we went to start a transaction, this was going to be the compliance screen. So this is where we are back to. If, for instance, you didn't, or let's say that this was 9 o'clock tonight and, you didn't get this back until tomorrow morning, all you would do is you would go to your opportunities you would click on opportunities, and this was a buyer. And it should be this one that we're doing. You just click on it, you go to documents, and you are back at the same page. Okay. So where we are at this point is we're now getting ready to submit our documents for compliance. Over on the right, left-hand side is we are in a residential transaction. Docusign set up 3 different tabs. They set up consultation, under contract, and closed. We are not using consultation. Our terminology is that we just did an offer. It was fully signed. It is now considered under contract. So we would click on the under contract tab. Now what you're going to see is you're going to see 45 documents that are labeled, and underneath the label is the word required on some, optional on others, and conditionally required on others. What you're trying to do at this point is you're trying to probably match up only the required forms. This is not any different than .loop was. We only submitted the forms that were required for compliance. So what we want to do is the CIS is already labeled for us here. What we want to do is match up our signed document with the CIS. So we, excuse me, back up. What we want to do is attach multiple files at once. We want all of those documents that were in our room, in our envelope, we want to attach those all at once. So that's what attach multiple files means. So you click on that. We want to attach files from Docusign. Now it's loading where we're going to go find those. So we just look down the list and you just scroll through that we want to find the CIS. We click on select. Now they don't give us a lot of room here. So the CIS ends up being 3 lines. But what you see is you've got a duplicate. You've got a CIS that's just a .pdf, and you've got a signed .pdf. We only want the signed ones. So you would just click on it, it would add it. The ABA for buyers. I forget where it is. Okay, the ABA for buyers signed. Okay, we did an agreement of sale for Delaware signed. Now, be careful going through the list because the next one you're not going to have because this is an improved land sale contract. So you only want the ones that are in your were in your envelope. We had the seller's disclosure. Oops, wrong one. Which was at the bottom. You would have had a radon disclosure. You would have had, not the information page. So we just didn't download those. We've got a buyer agency agreement. Buyer agency agreement signed. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Those are the 5 documents that we had. You're probably going to have more. All right, we just hit attach at the bottom, and what it's doing is it's loading them in programming language to be able to be sent to admin to be able to review your documents. So, Dawn, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, can you go in and do 3 out of 5?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, so what what you've loaded all the documents that you want to send to be reviewed. The button that says submit to MC, you just click it. It's saying, are you sure? You hit submit, and now it's grayed out and it says submitted. So this is now gone to admins to review all of your documents. Now, let's say this was 9 o'clock tonight and you forgot a document. You forgot to put the radon in. All right, so it's 7 o'clock tomorrow morning and you remembered it. You can go in and add the radon disclosure, just like we added the rest of these. And you're not going to see a submit to MC because it's already been submitted. But what's happening in the background is that form automatically went and is there. So long as Dawn hasn't opened this or anybody in admin hasn't opened this and started to work on it. So Dawn's working on it now. I could not add that form. So, you know, you can add as many as you want up until the time that somebody has opened it for review. Okay, so over on the right, the other right, the left-hand side, where we had under contract, it's saying submitted. Now, what Dawn's choices or what the admin choices are is each individual document is either going to be approved or rejected. There's no more missing items or I forgot what some of the other responses were in .loop. There's also, Dawn used to send you an email and would say, congratulations on the sale. I've approved the agreement of sale and the CIS. However, you got to fix this, this, and this, and what's wrong and all that. No more. She's not going to be sending out any emails because it's all contained in command. So let's say that Dawn has reviewed this. It's tomorrow afternoon, say. What we need to do is reload this page. It's updating itself. And now what you see is you see an approved next to the CIS and a rejected, and then another icon over here for the ABA. What the replacement for the email is this icon. And if you hover over it, it's going to tell you what's wrong. Okay, this was approved. The seller's disclosure was not filled out. So 2, 4, I don't know where the other one is. Okay, so what happens at this point is you have got to fix what these issues are. You may need to have to send them back to the buyer. So you're going to have to create another envelope to be able to send this. What I would suggest, because the next step at this point is remember in .loop we do green sheets. All right, green sheets is gone or going to be going very soon. And what's taking its place in command is offers and commissions. What I would suggest is to have your transaction fully approved here with each document and have this change from returned to approved. This isn't any different than with .loop, where we always wanted an approved transaction, because if the real estate commission walked in the door and wanted to see this file, I don't think we wanted to be showing them with this big returned on it or rejected throughout the document. So you don't have to have everything approved before you move on to offers and commissions, but I would suggest doing it because then you know your transaction is correct. Okay, sort of the next step, or the fourth thing in this, third thing, is we want to go to offers. And this is setting up the financial information to get to the commissions page. And right now, if you notice, commissions is grayed out and not active. You've got to do offers first. So if we click on offers, it wants us to add a new offer. You can, name it whatever you want, Mickey's first offer, and create an offer. So there are 4 steps in an offer, and there are details, parties, terms, and analysis. Similar to the green sheets where there might be just a couple of things on the sheet to fill out. The one thing that mine keeps coming over is the close date. We picked someplace in May. It's just coming over a couple of days difference here, so I'm not sure what that difference is. So make sure you've got the right dates. It wants you to put the address again, and as you start typing, the 911 address will come up, or the GPS address will come up. Okay, that's all that you want in this screen. The next section is parties. You've got the buyer in, you've got the email address in. You can click pre-approved or pre-qualified. It's got my name and email in here. Now, because we're under contract, it has seller and it's got a red asterisk. So we need to put the seller's information in. I'm just going to put me in again just for an example. And representation, it's going to want a agent's name. So you need to put that information in at this point. That's all they want on this page. The next is terms. Now, this is important because it's technically not a calculator. And we want to start here, but you can't. You have to start over here on the left-hand side. And the terminology is this is regarding financing. So the reference to cash is not their earnest money deposit, but what their down payment on their financing is going to be. So this was a $300,000 sale. Let's say they're going to put 20% down. So you fill in $60,000. The amount financed is $240,000, and now the sales price comes up as $300,000. Okay. The earnest money deposit is just the amount. The option fee. Not sure we have an option fee. I don't know the explanation of what this is, but again, remember, this is being used by Keller Williams worldwide. So somewhere, somebody's got an option fee. So I don't think we'll be using any of that. The next section is a termination option, and to me, this is similar to the home equity lines where you have 3 days for right of rescission. We don't have termination options here unless I guess you've written it in the offer. Seller's costs. Not sure exactly what a residential service contract pertains to. If that is something like a HVAC contract or something, right now, I don't know what that is, and we haven't tested this enough to know what it is. But I think in the seller's cost section where we are is seller will contribute $3,000, and this is to the buyer's closing costs. So I think that's our pretty standard language that we know what that reference is. So once we've got those few things in, we just click agent analysis. Again, we think that this might be that if Mickey maybe has submitted 2 offers or maybe has a second house, this is that they would consider if they didn't get the one they were offering this time. This is where you can write the pros, the cons, do a summary of notes or whatever. So There's really nothing here that needs to go in the offer section unless you want to put it in. So we finish with the 4 areas in the offer. We click save. And what we get is a linear description of what we just entered. So it's got the address, it's got the offer price, the cash down payment, financing, earnest money, closing date, and any other thing that we put in here. Now, this has nothing to do with compliance. This is only you looking at a linear description of the numbers so that you can say that they are right. If they were wrong, you would just hit the reject button and then you'd correct what you need to correct. If you look at this and everything is right, then all you do, and this is just to you, this is not involved anybody in admin or anything. You would say that I accept this, and if you watch when I push that, the commissions are now going to come active. Okay. Okay, so we've now got the offer details in here. We now go to the commissions tab, and for any of the older Keller Williams agents, referencing not a brand new Keller Williams or a transfer, this has got some pretty neat things on it that we've never had before. So remember, and what this is taking the place of is the green sheets, the the umpteen pages that you'd fill out. But again, this is not a calculator either, except it did figure this for us. And that won't change, but I'll show you where it will change. So just verify your information. Then what it gets down to is, and we're going to assume at this point that I'm the only agent in this transaction. So what's considered a unit is always 1 or less than 1. So it's not going to be 100 or not going to be 10, or it's always going to be 1 unit count, and that equals, in this case, 1 sale. Okay, so it's got the right commission. Now what it shows us, and this is new, this is a breakdown of where your monies are going and where the commission is going. So at the top, it's got the royalty, and it figures what it is. What's going to happen over here is every time you do a transaction, this amount of money is going to get subtracted. If this was the first one, you do the second one, it'll subtract it out. So it's going to tell you where you are to completing your royalty and where you are to completing your cap. So you're always going to know what that amount is. Where today, I'm not sure if I asked Paul Sakari, who's probably done 30 transactions already, what's your balances? I bet he wouldn't be able to answer. So this is kind of nice. Okay, so what we need to do here is, here it gives the 3 charities if you want to contribute to KW Cares, the kids, or the Bold Scholarship. All you would do is just put in the amount of money that you want to put in. Okay, over on the right-hand side this is a summary. So it's just every time you add something, it's going to start putting in the changes in here. Now, we haven't added anything like a referral, or we haven't added, say you're an agent that doesn't charge your buyer for the $50 Keller Williams additional commission. You pay it. So what we need to do is, down at the bottom, you'll see this blue Add Item button. You would just click on it, and now it's going to give you a choice of, is there a bonus? Is there a concession? Is there a deduction, an inside or an outside referral? And this is what's affecting your part of the commission. So let's say the $50 additional commission is a deduction. It's going to want you to fill this all out. So let's say that it's $50. Um, it's going to go by social security number. The description is once you start typing these in, it'll stay in there. It's paid to Keller Williams. The property or the address is the office. I think it's the office address, the phone number and the email. And then all you do is you hit add. And what it does is it adds it down here as an additional commission. It totals it up here and it adds it over here in the summary as an other deduction. So when you get done with this, you should have all of anything that's going to affect your commission, you should have it all in here. If the builder was giving you a bonus, you know, that would all go in here. Okay, so the example was that I'm the only agent, I'm a full unit count, everything is right. You've got a submit button over here on the right. When I submit that, that's going to go to Becky Hurd in Lewis. And what Becky's going to do is she's going to review the numbers. And what she's then going to do is create the DA. So same thing as green sheets, but the DA is being created right up front. So that it can be used by the Market Center for estimates and projections and, you know, the things that they do for budgeting. What's going to happen is if there are changes from the time you're doing this until 7 or 10 days before closing, and say you're contributing in the negotiation for repairs from the home inspection, you're going to be paying $100. You're not going to be able to enter that. You're going to need to call Becky and explain what the changes are. Becky will go ahead and make the changes on the DA. And then where the DA resides is, remember on the compliance list at where it had the 45 documents, all the way at the bottom of that is where she's going to add the DA. And again, if you click on the DA, you're going to be able to open it. You're going to be able to see all the amounts and what is on the DA similar to what's there now. It's going to be up to you to make sure that that's correct, because once you send that to the attorneys, you know, that's what they're going to do because that's the instruction. So, you know, hopefully you'll get that done before settlement. Okay, what I want to do is show you in this example that you're not the only agent in the transaction. The sales price and the commission are the same, but what's going to happen in this section is I'm no longer going to have a full unit count. I went on vacation and another agent covered for me. They ended up doing the home inspection, and basically I couldn't get home in time for settlement, so they ended up going to settlement. We determined that our split is going to be 60-40. So what you need to do is change the 1, and I need to go to 0.6. The way you do that is on the minus, you just tap and click until you come up to -6 or 0.6. Now, let's say that we had decided on 65-35. As I was counting down, there wasn't a half that came up. If you just put the cursor in, you can type in the extra digit in that part of the commission. All right, I'm going to change this back because I need to do this in my head. All right, what didn't happen, and you're going to keep getting this red bar because the value has to equal 1. We're not at 1 yet. But what it didn't do is it didn't change the commission. So I need to physically take 6/10 of $9,000, which is $5,400, and add it in. Okay, it's still telling me in the red bar that I haven't got to 1 because we know that. Okay, so then you scroll all the way down to the end of your section. And remember, we just had add item before. Well, we've got a new button that says add agent. So we click on that. All of our agents should be entered into the system. So as I start typing, oops, it comes up quick and goes away. So you can pick the agent, hit add the agent, and what happens, and it's underneath now instead of side by side. It's going to put Sandy all of her information down here. So where we are is Sandy has a 0 count, but she is 0.4, so we have to add her in to the commission. And then we have to add what that commission is. So that should be 3,600. Okay. So what it did is it now set Sandy up with her royalty, with her cap. You know, this would get filled in if she is participating. What it also did over here in the summary is it now added her, and it added her amount and changed my amount. So you see what that all is. Now, the one thing that we didn't decide on is, for instance, let's say I had a $250 admin fee, or I was, a minor team. What we didn't decide upon in the beginning was I going to take all of that, or were we going to split that, or were we going to do it by the percentage of the transaction? So, just something you're going to have to remember is when you start adding things in. So this was 60%. If you wanted to change this to 60-40, you'd hit the pencil. What's 60% of that? 150? Okay, so it would change mine, but then we'd have to add it down here. So we'd have to go to add an item, choose the deduction, and go through that exercise. So, again, it depends on how you're working the numbers, but that's how you add an agent. You can add as many as you want. You can add a licensed assistant, but the commissions are going to have to equal whatever the commission is up on the top of the page. So once you're done with this, you'd hit the submit. It would go to create the DA. What you will get is up here in this black command bar next to your picture is a bell with a red dot in it. This is where your notifications are. So I didn't send this to Becky because she's not going to create a DA on a instructional transaction. So what this did say is if you click on the bell, it's going to tell you that you completed or you submitted for compliance and it was returned. So, you're going to be able to tell, if you submitted it tonight and you came in tomorrow morning, if you've got a red dot in here, you know that you can go and check it. So when you're done with all of these, you can just hit dismissed and your red dot goes away. Okay, so what you've just gone through is the entire transaction of doing it, getting signatures, submitting it for compliance, and then setting up to get paid. So I know it's a lot of stuff. The PowerPoint, every screen that I just showed you is in the PowerPoint. There are all kinds of arrows. There's all kinds of instructions. There's red writing all over the screens, pointing, telling you what to do. You should be able to follow it along and not have any trouble getting through the transaction. It's just remembering which buttons I think to hit. In the PowerPoint, they're clearly labeled. But until you get used to this, it's just going to take you, getting in here and playing with it. Send it to your family, or send it, if you've got a couple of emails, do it to yourself. Just make up names. What you can do at that point is, if you go back to the icons and you click on the KW, if we want to go back to the opportunities, and this is the opportunity we just did, it was a buyer. Now see what it's done is it's got 2 sales in here at 300,000 that I use for demonstration. If you're playing around in this and you don't want these to appear once you get active and you've got real people in here, these 3 dots next to, or in the right hand side, if you click on it, it says archive opportunity. Then you say yes, and then you want to archive it, and it goes away. So, you can get rid of these, the ones you play with. You don't have to keep them here. Other than that, I can't think of anything else that you need at this point.
Hey, Brad, quick question. On the admin fee, is that how that's handled? Is that considered income to the agent that's just split, as
well, the one that I was trying to show you was a 250. I mean, it could be, I guess it could be the $50 one.
Yeah, I mean, if you charge like $350 or something,
Right,
and call it an admin fee, and answered any questions, I would just go to admin. It could go to the transaction coordinator. But is that included as income to the agent and then split
well,
along?
it depends on who you're collecting it from and when you're collecting it. If you're collecting it from the buyer, it's going to be collected at settlement. But it's already, I think when you look at your DA, it's already been included in your commission.
Okay.
So
And thank you very much. I'm going to have to get off real quick. This is Pam. Thank you.
okay, I'll send you a new one. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
That's good.
Okay. I mean, if you're an agent that just on the $50, if you don't charge a buyer or a seller, then it's going to be collected from you.
Okay.
And it's coming out of your commission,
Right.
because somebody's got to pay it to Keller Williams. So
Okay.
it's either the buyer, the seller, or the agent.
Gotcha.
Okay. So if the example that I did is I don't charge it, so therefore it's coming out of me.
Right.
Okay. All right. Have you tried to get into this or do anything in here, Ted?
I have not. I have a prospective transaction coming up, so this is sort of timely for me. I have people in my contacts, and I've attended this class before, so.
Right. Okay. Well, before that day comes that they actually want you to do something, try and get in here as soon as you can and play with it.
Yeah.
Get a feel for it, or at least look through the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So you're familiar. You're probably going to get hung up on a button to push, or what's kind of what I say is the next button.
Right.
But the PowerPoint, it's pretty easy to follow. So,
Okay.
but be familiar with it, because otherwise, did you ever do a transaction in .loop?
Just the one on the Staten team. I didn't peer over the shoulder and pay a whole lot of attention to it. So.
All right. Well, I don't know whether Tom could get into that while you were in it, but me as an admin, if you were working at home and you were in .loop,
Right.
I could log in as an admin and look at the same form you're looking at and be able to help you through it.
But you can't do that now,
No,
right?
no.
Yep.
So because of the situation we're in right now with being out of the offices,
Yeah.
unless I'm in the room with you, I'm kind of going to be guessing. But I can log in and get the forms up and, do the same thing you are. It's just, we don't want to screw anything up. And,
Yeah.
that's where we just not going to be able to see exactly. There are ways of fixing that, but,
Okay.
that's where that is right now. So,
I'll do a few dry runs beforehand.
or just be familiar with some of it, and see where you're going with it.
Yeah, and that was the client. I thought I might have to do some paperwork, but I think I can do the forms, and I've been over to his house and I can help him on the computer. So that's still going to be the way to go. So,
Okay, well, everything, you have to submit documents into compliance and offers and commissions.
yep.
That's where everything is going to be, and in order to get paid, you've got to go through the compliance part. So,
Right.
but that can be uploaded through your computer, just instead of going to Docusign. So,
Okay.
okay.
Sounds good. Yep.
All right, well, take a go at it. Give a call if you have any trouble.
Okay.
The one thing that if you are having some specific issues, Sandy Green is doing one-on-ones where she will share the screen. They're only 30 minutes, and her objective is you tell her what the problem is, and by the time the 30 minutes is up, is you've solved it and you know how to fix it in the future.
Okay.
So that you just log on into the calendar and go in and set up a time with her.
Okay.
So that's pretty easy. That's probably a lot better than maybe sitting through this again.
Yeah.
Which you can do.
Well, I think I have the slides from the first presentation. I'll see what updates you have on there.
You need to, what's the date on the top of that?
It's January 16th.
You need to throw that away.
Throw it away?
Yep, there's been 10 upgrades to it since then.
Okay.
The newest one is dated March 31st.
Gotcha.
And in the section, in that one that you have, you don't have compliance or offers and commissions because it wasn't out till February.
Gotcha.
So don't just rip that one up and throw it away.
Yeah, it's taking up space. All right.
Now, okay.
All
All
right.
right. Call me if you need to, and
Okay.
good luck with that. And
Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably hit you up with a phone call. You got a little room in your schedule one of these days, I'm sure.
yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't have the correct drive. I don't want to waste your time now, but has everybody else gotten off the call?
Yes.
Yeah. I need to, my password that I got set up with for the workstation in the office, of course, I hadn't tried to get on there in a year. It didn't work the other night, and I need to print some stuff out in there. I didn't particularly want to bother Becky, but
You went in the office to print?
yeah, and I had my laptop originally hooked up to Andy's printer, and I wasn't going to use that one, but I thought I was also hooked up to the office, but I probably wasn't on my laptop. But my code works on the printer. All I got to do is log on to the workstation. I can print,
Right.
because I know I can log into the printer.
Okay.
So can I get in there as a guest, or do I need to figure out what my real password is?
Well, Becky's in the office. You could call her and ask her to see if you're logged into the printer.
Or to the workstation in the back. I know I'm logged into the printer.
Well,
I'm signed in there.
Well, but is it Andy's printer or the office printer?
No, it's the office printer.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
go up
just
there, I put in my code, and it says, yeah, you're logged in, and that's never changed. But what has changed is I just couldn't get into the darn computer in the
right.
workstation.
Yeah, you go in and log in, and use the Lewis login username and password, and you get into your stuff. Just connect you to the Wi-Fi.
Desktop using what again, you say?
you log into the Lewis username and password. It's all in the back in the workroom, work area.
Okay, okay. I knew I was missing something back there, Brad. I was looking
Yeah.
around. I said,
Well, and I mean, I haven't been in the office to sit or walk around.
yeah, no,
But Becky and Betty are there, and Dave Tulloch is there. So, you know, they know what the passwords are to get in.
okay. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good, Brad.
All
Yep.
right. Good luck.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank
All
you.
right. Stay
Take care.
safe.